This full moon, yeah, it's complicated. In one way or another, we are all feeling that intense push-pull between control and surrender. Emotions are running high right now, and if you're feeling triggered by fear, sadness, confusion, or anger, just know that you are not at all alone. There's a lot of tension in the sky as we wrap up Pluto and Capricorn this week. But remember, this moment is exactly everything that we have been training for. Hope and possibility are very much alive, even in the chaos of it all. But you'll need to reach for it because nobody is coming to save you. This is actually all about your participation. So join me as we crack the code to navigate this energy, fueling the revolution of our evolution right now in real time. Hey guys, so how's everybody doing out there? I know for many it has been a rough week. As we experience the last few days of Pluto Capricorn, I feel like we're being shown in no uncertain terms the line between control and surrender. Where do we draw our own personal boundaries between trusting a process that feels so much bigger than us? And where do we keep fighting for control? What's noise and what's liberation? No matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, whether you're in the US or in any other part of the world right now, we're all being tasked with navigating boundaries that span our own inner masculine and feminine dynamics, all the way up to how we engage with the world at large. I know for many of us that task feels absolutely monumental and seemingly impossible. But we've been training for this for months, if not actually years. So this week's full moon is highlighting those kinds of questions as well as a lot more. So join me in cracking the code of this full moon chart for its guidance and how to approach the tension that this energy brings. This chart features a lot of tension, some key support, as well as specific directions. So there are several key tension aspects at play here. A T-square between Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn. The harder to visualize T-square between the nodes putting pressure on Venus. There's a grand trine between Neptune, the Sun, and Mars, featuring a kite that's yet again pointing to Pluto, which is also in a volatile opposition to Mars. And topping it off, because it's a full moon, we have moon opposed Sun, with the added surprise of Uranus conjunct the full moon. And with that, in essence, has a vibe of yikes, there is some beautiful support as well from a cradle that consists of the minor grand trine to Neptune combined with the minor grand trine forming the apex of the kite to Pluto. Now that's a lot of energy, and there is no doubt in my mind that nearly every human on the planet is feeling the tension of these transits in some form. For those of us in the US, the great divide of ideologies came to a head last week, and many are struggling to straddle the line between trust and control, and depending on who you ask, there's very different visions of what both of those polarities represent. Now, before I jump into the Astro of all of it, I can't shy away from mentioning that my specific placement of Neptune on my own chart is at the galactic center in the Sagittarian second house. Astrology math speaking, it's my job here to keep hope and possibility alive always, no matter what. So I think it's important to remember that this perfectly imperfect present moment in time is an evolutionary reminder of how far apart we are in order to find our way back towards unity. It's Pluto at 29 Capricorn making us really sure that we see the problem, and Jupiter in Gemini reminding us that truth is relative to our experiences and our understanding and processing of information. So all of that being said, what we are experiencing right now is the three-dimensional learning and testing of how we as humans wrestle with being conscious of how actually limitless this world actually is, and rewiring our bodies and minds to not go haywire into nervous system dysregulation when we don't know what's going to happen next. It's very uncomfortable. Where previously we may have found security in patterns, in the known, well, a lot of that was a physical, primal safety and ultimately an illusion that has kept us from accessing the potential of infinity. So that being said, a lot of you might hear me and say like, absolutely not. That is clearly not what's happening here. But hear me out. Consider that there are many people out there who frankly are not okay with the concept of our unlimited potential. Perhaps to a degree, that fear even lives inside of you still. So at some level, instead of adapting, the nervous system unconsciously activates us back to what's known. And there's a desperation grip to any level of control: a system, a government, a religion, a person, a modality, an ideology, a deity. It's a paradox, really, because humans are built with a survival instinct around what is known. However, it's the nature of evolution to seek out entropy and not remain in our comfort zone. So basically, this is what we've been training for. Gripping to outdated, misaligned ideologies does not have to be you. We are sovereign beings by nature. All signs point back to adapting to the unknown and opening up to the possibility for a higher quality of life that lives inside of an unknown that we just can't yet even quantify or even imagine. Wild. So let's explore that concept and what the astrology has to say about it. So, although this is a full moon chart, I kind of want to follow the energy of these aspects in a particular way. So, let's first look at the T square between Jupiter, Mercury, and Saturn. As mentioned a few moments ago, we have Jupiter still in retrograde in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini is expansion of information, understanding, communication, ultimately for the benefic transformation of your beliefs. But it's still in retrograde, so the call is coming from inside the house. At 19 degrees, this can maybe feel like an identity crisis of sorts. Information flows in that maybe doesn't match your current level of understanding about the world. But if you're being honest with yourself, there's probably an intuitive hit that says, hey, maybe there's a reason my ideas and beliefs are being challenged. It would behoove you to listen to that voice and remain open minded. However, some people will immediately react to that with denial and force the softer intuition out of the equation. We've all done it. I've done it. When someone isn't ready to challenge their beliefs, there's nothing a planet can do about it but continue to show up and challenge the energy. And that's what's happening here for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. It doesn't mean that people will answer the call. But Jupiter is the big mama of planets and remains in Gemini for another 6 months, so expect this theme not only to continue, but to ramp up even more for everyone. So Jupiter, ruler of Sagittarius, operates with a focus on the bigger picture, seeking coherence and meaning. Gemini is its opposite sign, so not only is this in retrograde, but it's also in detriment. Gemini's energy is more focused on the intricate layers, quick thinking, and versatility, which challenges the bigger picture expansion of Jupiter. Although it internally can feel scattered, especially if you're not accustomed to Gemini energy, the purpose is to foster curiosity, open mindedness, and flexibility, as well as a unique perspective that basically synthesizes and alchemizes various ideas. One of Gemini's strengths is weaving things that seem unrelated together into a cohesive idea. The growth comes from learning to embrace multiple viewpoints, which can deepen wisdom and understanding of the world at large. I mean, come on now. Is that not the biggest challenge for people under the sky right now? The internalizing of that specifically? And furthermore, it's opposed Mercury, Gemini's ruler, at the Neptune degree of Sagittarius. So we have two planets, both in their rulers' opposite signs. That's called mutual reception. They're in detriment, so basically they're not in their comfort zones, but also they're simultaneously learning from each other's ruler. And I think there's something really precious about that, and maybe a secret clue as to how we as people can learn from each other's points of views, and while having empathy and compassion for that process. Because on the other side of this opposition, we're dealing with Mercury, the planet of understanding, thinking, curiosity, and information, but in Jupiter's ruling sign. I think this configuration of Mercury is meant to detangle us from stories we tell ourselves that aren't aligned with the vision we have for humanity and its future. Sagittarius loves a good story, but its lower octave can act on fiction rather than fact. But how do we negotiate that when we are also learning that fact is actually relative? That's the paradoxical conundrum and balance of this opposition. What the astrology math is asking us to look at is our bigger picture philosophies and understanding about the adventure of life and hope and possibility for ourselves and others. Is it rooted in healing, transcendence, and sovereignty? If the answer is no, then what meaning is your belief system actually beholden to? Is it fear? Is it self serving ego? Or are you expecting someone outside of yourself to keep you safe or to come save you? And to be honest, that is a scary question for many people to face because most control systems are designed to breathe that right out of people. Indoctrination happens so that people go their whole lives never questioning the system. But what if there was never any true safety in the system? What if it's simply an illusion to foster control? That's terrifying for so many people to come to terms with, and it's a perfect example of one of many threads of Pluto at 29 Capricorn. So we have a push-pull here that's really working on the same problem but from different angles. Mercury asking us to check the root of our beliefs for fictional stories that we're being told and sold in order to keep us controlled. And also the ones that we're telling ourselves out of fear of embracing the unknown future. While at the same time, we have Jupiter clearing out where we're not willing to flexibly expand our beliefs. This energy is opening us up for new possibilities, but it's also very uncomfortable, especially to those fighting tooth and nail on behalf of a false sense of control. So that energy is putting pressure on Saturn. And I don't think it's an accident that on the same day of this full moon, Saturn, still in Pisces, goes direct at 12 degrees, which nets back to the Jupiter degree. So Saturn, being the taskmaster of the zodiac, is all about commitment and responsibility. But in Pisces, the accountability is to healing, compassion, mercy, and empathy. It's returning the true essence of spirituality, of humanity, back into the equation. And not through fictional stories. It's about respecting all conscious beings, not just the ones that look like you or the ones that live within imaginary borders drawn on a map. It's everyone. It gets to come from inside of us because we are divinity incarnate. The more we find each other, the greater expression of oneness we get to experience. It can't happen while we are this far apart in our individuation. And to solidify the message, we can look across the chart to the opposite of the apex, at 12 Virgo. The problem solving that comes when we reach for healing and compassion of our incarnated human. I mean, it's all right here. If you're feeling hopeless, it's understandable, but remember, it's also temporary. This isn't really the time to be scared, as paradoxical as it seems. It's really the time to test your chops on reaching for faith in your fellow man. We've become accustomed to unprecedented events. Why is that? Because we truly do not know what is going to happen next. And that can be terrifying, but it can also be hope. It's probably a mix of both, but the choice is still yours. And speaking of Saturn, healing, and control, let's take a closer look at Pluto at 29 Capricorn. Saturn rules Capricorn, and control systems are the focal point of Pluto's dismantling. So it's natural that at the end of this Pluto cycle, we are being asked to break our trust and belief in them. What I don't think a lot of us expected was really how personal that would feel. Because ultimately, control systems are fed by our beliefs. That's what gives them power and control. So all of this shakeup, this line between control and trust, is precisely on time. Because it's through breaking our trust in something outside of us that allows us to connect deeper within ourselves, to find our own personal values and truths, and to use that vision to align with the frequency that produces a higher quality of life. We won't get somewhere new by doing more of the same. Now, of course, the malefic energy of the phoenix is not going to lead with softness. The rebirth process is messy. But because this line is so pronounced, surrendering control to hope and possibility can come in the form of believing in the bigger picture. I know that's what's kept me going these last few weeks. The deep desire for a better reality for every single person, no matter what. And I think I spoke about this on my last episode, but no matter what is here. Can you maintain alignment with your deepest beliefs and desires even when everything on the outside appears opposite? When it looks like it's time to lose faith in humanity, are you able to hold the note of unity? And it's okay if your answer is no, this isn't easy. We're learning it in real time right now. And what's making it even harder is the opposition, which is Mars now at 3 Leo. You know, when I saw Mars was going to be in Leo on the day of the US election, my heart sank a little because the writing was on the wall that ego driven warrior energy was at play. In my heart, I can hold on to the bigger picture, but I'm not going to lie, it's tough out here in my humanness sometimes. But remember what Mars just reviewed in Cancer, and what he's going to be relearning again during his retrograde cycle. Taking compassionate action on behalf of protection, rather than fighting for ego driven vanity. And I really think that there's reason that this is all happening on the cusp of Leo. Like, if we're all about protection and nurturing, the retrograde could have started at the 29th degree of Cancer, but that's not what the energy is showing us. At 3 Leo, we're in expansion of heart based leadership and expression of individuality territory. So, for the unconscious in this energy, that's a ton of doubling down on control. The whole your body, my choice bullshit, really reactive expression of unconscious Mars and Leo energy gripping at their last bits of control. But in the moment and experience of it, try not to let it fool you. The bigger picture and less immediate long term lesson of the span of energy is about building masculine leadership from feminine ideals. And I know from the very American left perspective, this might feel laughable to say that at this moment. But again, stay with me here. Because I think instead of fighting each other and being afraid, the higher use of this energy is really a masculine call to action. Because Mars opposed Pluto is part of a kite. So there's supportive energy here in a grand trine to help us with this opposition. The Sun at 24 Scorpio brings an intense desire for transformation of your identity. It's about seeking out life's deeper truths, resilience in the face of challenges, and application of boundaries to keep ourselves safe, rather than putting that in the hands of some greater other. There's underlying themes of Venus here, so it's a connection between the depth of our personal truths and uncovering and transforming our approach to beauty, harmony, balance, peace, and flow. And then we have Neptune at 27 Pisces, deeply intuitive connection to spirituality, healing, and empathy. Still in retrograde, we're coming face to face with our deepest subconscious blocks and taking action to heal and move through any beliefs that keep us separated and fighting each other. This energy supports our healing as we question anything and everything that disempowers us from our own inner potential, including putting other people on pedestals and believing them to be saviors, when really the true saviors already exist inside each and every one of us. Yet humanity continues to look outside of itself due to a range of conditioning and limiting beliefs, some of which were planted there to keep us small. When we thread together all of these placements, they are ultimately showcasing all of the ways we abandon and disempower ourselves, especially through the belief that someone else is going to come along and relieve us of our responsibility and do the work for us. Now, here's one good assessment that I personally use for that. If a leader is humble in their humanness and willing to address their weaknesses, faults, and mistakes, that's someone who's real and cares about true connection and is here to help guide us. So ask yourselves, are your leaders humble and willing to show their vulnerabilities? Or are we yet again falling for false idols who need to show off their ego? Because, well, that's not a leader. That's a con man, or woman, or person. Note that trust in the false idol of the latter is simply a mechanism of the control system that thrives on keeping us separated. Because together we would be way too powerful that no system would have a chance. That's what's at stake for them. Now remember, this energy is in kite formation, so yes, there's tons of support for evolution and transformation towards the ideals of the cusp between Pluto and Capricorn and Pluto and Aquarius. We are extremely supported in straddling the messy line between faith and control. But that Mars and Leo opposition at the bottom of the kite, that's not just a lesson, it's a mandate. Masculine energy is exploring the purpose behind his leadership, where he's actually leading us and from what energy. He's got a nice lesson in self care and nurturing and compassion, the ideals of mother energy in Cancer. But was it enough? Well, astrologically speaking, no. And I say that with love simply because he will be revisiting that energy during his retrograde in a few weeks and through the first quarter of 2025. There's evidence here that Mars has a lot of work to do in his own evolution from fierce reactive warrior to courageous protector driven by wisdom. So I had a moment where all of this kind of broke me down a little bit. There's a lot of misguided, angry Leo masculine energy out there right now, and some clearly driven by ego, vanity, and inequality. No doubt that is out of the closet in abundance right now, vying so hard for control. There's also a lot of honorable, heart centered, newly awakened masculine energy out there too. And as the energy designed to lead the structure of humanity into the future, this opposition is testing them in the ideals of their leadership that will drive their actions. I mean, men used to literally go to war over their women. And as a woman in the US, all I could think of was, if you're so upset, there's no more time to simply be a keyboard warrior anymore. We're gonna need you to do something about it. Why aren't you fucking going to war for us now? Your daughters, your wives, your sisters, all of us. Women have done as much as we can to fight this battle, and obviously we will forge on, more committed than ever. And more on that in a moment. But without the support and strength of the unified, awakened masculine energy, we simply can't fight this alone. Feminine energy is intrinsically a lover, not a fighter. It's no secret that women have been finding each other and supporting each other for centuries and creating safe spaces. Mainly because we haven't been protected in the way that we've needed to out in the wide world. So, like, guys, what are you waiting for? When does the healthy masculine get to show up for us? Stop hiding. Assemble. Find each other. Organize yourselves. Fucking fight for us. We need you. And we absolutely hate admitting that. And if you know any woman, you know we even more hate asking for it. But it's the truth. The time to complain behind a screen is over. If you identify with masculine energy and you feel saddened or scared or concerned about the well-being of marginalized groups right now, find each other. Do something about it. The time is right now. Now, before I move on from this topic, please know that whether you identify as masculine or feminine, both or neither, I am committed to creating a safe space for you as well. These themes have really hit deep with every single chart I've opened over the last few months. There is guidance and leadership embedded in them and available to you right now. And I would be honored to be a guide and channel to crack the code on your chart and align you with your role in humanity's evolutionary revolution. Join me in live session space, purchase an in-depth written or recorded reading, because I would be honored to connect you with your own personal guidance around these topics. If you have a friend or loved one who's already open to this modality, the written report makes a great gift as well. Because the more we know, the better we can move blocks out of the way and show up for each other to assist in this evolutionary process. We heal this together. So now that we've dissected this masculine call to action, it's important to see why this feels so heavy on the feminine right now. And for that, of course, we look to Venus. Now, when I first looked at this chart, I wasn't even certain I wanted to spend time talking about Venus on this episode because there's just so much going on. But it quickly became abundantly clear why this is not just an important counterbalance to Mars energy. It's an extremely meaningful to this full moon chart and the bigger picture evolutionary messages of the nodal axis itself. So Venus is here at 4 degrees Capricorn. So let's just say the feminine is getting really serious about her commitment to balance, harmony, peace, unity, and equality. I think that's part of the reason so many women in the US right now feel extra oppressed and downright scared by the political climate. Venus has a job to do and she wants to excel at it, but it feels like there's a lot of blockades and heavy energy in the way of her goals. However, this particular degree is Uranian in nature, so it's important not to lose faith in the unexpected. Not that we want to disempower ourselves by putting all of our faith into something outside of us coming to the rescue, but rather, Uranus energy isn't generally something we can plan for. There's going to be unexpected transformation. We can absolutely trust in that. But it's not just Venus and Capricorn that's causing the existential heaviness for the feminine right now. It's hard to see on this chart because the opposition line is rarely drawn between the nodes, but there's always opposition between North Node and South Node. So beneath the surface of all that's going on in this chart, we have a T-square between the nodal axis and Venus herself. If you've listened to these episodes the past few months, you'll remember that the Aries-Libra nodal axis is all about the balance between masculine and feminine and its impact on our relationships. North Node Aries is about empowerment. And if we look to Mars, the ruler of Aries, and remember his most recent lessons, this is again about brave protection rather than fierce warrior energy. However, as we see with the current Mars and Leo transit, this bigger picture lesson is focused on developing the warrior to fight for the protection of nurturing feminine ideals. This is part of the empowerment lesson of Aries that will benefit us as we shift into Pluto and Aquarius for the long term transit. And that's in consistent tension with the South Node Libra, who has maybe given up her power to please others in order to keep the peace. Although the pursuit of balance and harmony is always valid and valiant, it cannot come at the expense of what is true and real to us. When we ignore our intuition and devalidate our emotions and go with the flow too much, we fall into self abandonment patterns. And I think that's why we are in this position right now. The South Node in a chart shows us our comfort zone. In this case, it's where we put our wants and needs aside in pursuit of what we believe to be the greater good. Now, all of this can be true within our personal relationships, the inner masculine feminine balance that we have in ourselves, and also on the grander scale of the imbalance in the world at large. The tension, especially during Scorpio season, is trying to teach us that ignoring our wants and needs and shoving them down in the name of peace is not actually fair, nor is it balanced. It's up to us to communicate with each other what we need and not just simply be quiet out of fear. If the feminine isn't telling the masculine what we need from him, then not only can he not go out and build it, but it also leaves him to his own agenda without an assignment. When that excess fiery action energy has no purposeful outlet, it results in cycles of creation for the sake of chauvinistic, egoistic expression. And when that escalates, as it clearly has, we end up in a deep cycle of patriarchal, misogynistic imbalance where the masculine forgets what he's fighting for. Hence, all the lessons we've already discussed around reminding this energy of its bigger evolutionary purpose. So we have this dynamic push towards individuation and self-empowerment with the Aries North Node in tension, with the South Node in Libra's tendency to prioritize harmony, relationships, and compromise at the expense of self-worth and autonomy. And wow, is the light being shined on that underlying tension more so than ever. Venus in Capricorn squares both nodes, highlighting unresolved themes around personal values, love, and self-worth in relation to societal structures and authority. The square here challenges feminine energy. Growth occurs by asserting independence, even if it requires a bit of dismantling of Libra's tendency to seek approval or validation. Instead, we are directed to honor our authentic desires through Venus and Capricorn's commitment to our authenticity. Basically, what we are experiencing in real time is the conscious breaking apart of the traditional concept of feminine energy having to act subservient to masculine. Because this extremely important T-square is here to support Pluto and Capricorn in dismantling traditions, rules, and expectations that have been set by patriarchal social norms, religious dynamics, and control system energies outside of what the core energy of humanity intuitively knows is true and balanced. But in classic fashion, the control systems are not interested in giving up their power. So what we see in the collective right now is the doubling down on masculine control of the feminine. And all of that equates to fear, heaviness, and sadness that's so heavy and present right now. It's integral that we have a lot of empathy here, but also realize that this is a temporary growing pain and there's a bigger evolutionary picture at play. This puts us right back to where we started, straddling that bigger picture line of trusting evolution to unfold as it needs, versus grasping for control. And man, does Venus want to grasp for control right now too. Which brings us finally to the full moon itself at 24 Taurus. So remember, Taurus energy is all about quality of life. And that itself is the North Star we're fighting for here. It is the bigger picture. It's the Earth sign of manifestation and abundance and persistence, netting to the Venus degree in a Venus-ruled sign. So there's underlying feminine energy charging this moon even more so than usual and pushing us to keep going in pursuit of peace, harmony, beauty, and a greater balance for all of humanity. This moon urges us to keep our eye on the prize, and since a full moon is a release point, it's the voice in the background intuitively telling us that it will all be worth the effort, encouraging our belief that we are in fact not stuck here. But to hear that call, we have to release any expectations or blocks and be willing to connect with the energy of potential and possibility of not knowing what's going to happen. We have to face these circumstances that may look pretty fucking bleak at this point and still continue to reach for peace and flow and trust in it. Because we can't see the whole picture from this vantage point, not even close. Backing up that concept is the conjunction with Uranus retrograde at 25 Taurus. This is a powerful alignment that brings sudden shifts, breakthroughs, and potential disruptions around the themes of security, stability, values, and resources. Full moons represent culminations or illuminations, while Uranus brings unexpected change and awakening, especially in Taurus, the sign associated with earthly material comforts and security. This conjunction invites us to release outdated attachments to stability or predictability, pushing for new, innovative ways of approaching security and self-worth, which is all part of the very orchestrated lead up to Pluto in Aquarius. Because Uranus is still in retrograde, it suggests that an internal transformation is already in progress. So I really mean it when I say hang in there. Because as unexpected outer events occur, it's going to heavily trigger introspection, evaluation, and ultimately transformation of what we really find valuable and important. So the future forward vision of security and high quality of life itself are in the process of transforming in real time. This can feel really unsettling, but ultimately serves as an awakening to new values, freedom, and a more authentic alignment. Adding to the depth and intensity of all of that is a conjunction to the fixed star Algol. I don't always read fixed stars, and I'll admit I'm not super well versed in them, but I've had a lot of synchronicities pointing me back down the rabbit hole, and it would be a miss not to include Algol's influence here. So Algol is one of the better known fixed stars in astrology, sitting around 26 degrees Taurus. It has a reputation for being one of the most intense and challenging stars. And not to put it lightly, it represents the severed head of Medusa from Greek mythology. Therefore, the lore of Algol energy is often connected with powerful, sometimes dark forces, representing aspects of life that are intense, feared, or suppressed, like deep anger, trauma, or the urge to reclaim one's power after experiencing powerlessness. It also symbolizes transformation through confronting shadows or emotional wounds. Some of that has antiquated views of femininity in terms of Medusa's darkness. In modern context, we can see Algol as themes of resilience, survival, and overcoming adversity. Though traditionally it has a challenging reputation, a healing consciousness can view it as a source of strength, courage, and the potential for profound healing. When planets or major points align with Algol, they bring opportunities to confront fears or repressed emotions and transform or empower our areas of life that may feel overwhelming or out of control. So, Algol's influence, while intense, can lead to personal growth, inner strength, and a much deeper understanding of our resilience. And that is a lot of feminine energy around reclaiming our power. And obviously, all of that resonates really heavily right now. I can't even tell you guys. I think like I've gone 99.9% of my life without thinking much about Medusa's head. But then within the span of like 1 week, I had no less than 5 direct and completely different unrelated synchronistic references to it. At this point, it feels like this moon is personally asking me to illuminate the energy of Algol as a source of feminine hope and empowerment, which we need right now. So now we have full moon at 24 degrees Taurus, conjunct Uranus retrograde at 25 Taurus, and aligned with Algol at 26 Taurus. Transformation and liberation of our quality of life. This is a big energetic transformation, confronting deep-seated fears and suppressed emotions and bringing them to the surface. Probably triggering a lot of masculine fear as well. And let me remind you, it's still Scorpio season. And this moon conjunction opposes Sun in Scorpio, which together adds the deeper angle of not just facing what's been repressed, but there's healing power here to unearth and unblock what you previously felt was untouchable. That's like stuff you were going to take to the grave type energy. Karmic patterns that we've been enslaved to, lifetime over lifetime. When the full moon conjuncts Algol, this energy can illuminate our deepest patterns of powerlessness and essentially ignites us to reclaim our autonomy. Like, wow, if that's not speaking directly to the social climate of the moment, I'm not sure there's anything else I can show you that would. And there's nowhere we see that tension at play more than the opposition to Sun at 24 Scorpio. It's our belief in safety of our control systems versus the self-empowerment transformation to reach for a higher quality of life. Ultimately, this balancing act and release is working together in our favor. The key here is to stay grounded while being open to change, allowing for breakthroughs that align us with a deeper sense of purpose and freedom. That allowance itself is trusting the process by not overly vying or forcing control. And not only does Pluto rule Scorpio, so naturally it points back to Pluto, but this opposition is heavily supported by a cradle of energy working together on its behalf. That minor grand trine that formed the kite pointing to Pluto, and the minor grand trine of Pluto and Uranus pointing to Neptune, now intertwined with the power of the full moon. No matter which way I slice and dice this chart, the energy continues to be on our side, guiding us out of darkness and into the light. We get to trust in the process. So, despite the difficulty level of Pluto 29 Capricorn with this full moon conjunct Uranus and Algol, and Venus squaring the nodal axis, and Mars opposed Pluto, and the hard aspect of Jupiter and Mercury to Saturn, in the end, we are still fully supported in this revolutionary evolution of humanity itself. It's all right here with Pluto sextile Neptune at the base of it all. The healing and transcendence of our spirituality working side by side through the Phoenix takedown and rebirth of control systems. This is the bigger picture at play right now in real time. This is what we get to choose to look at to make it all worth the messiness and the effort. We are literally being reborn at this very moment and actively engaged in the ring of fire. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, sad, mad, scared, hurt, well, you are very much right on time. But do not fall into the pit of fear. If anything, Scorpio energies are reminding us that we are the light in the dark. It comes from the spark within each and every one of us. We get to reach for the light here. We have the choice to believe that hope and possibility are always alive and well. Let that be our understanding of this reality. Perhaps more so now than ever before. So let it flow, 'cause it won't stop. Thank you so much for joining me today and watching this episode and trusting my guidance. As part of my mission to follow my bliss and concurrently be of service to others, I'd love to help you crack the code of your own astrological chart and uncover the hidden guidance within it. Whether you're interested in live readings, written analysis, or even personalized videos like this one tailored to your specific chart, I'm here to support your journey. Stay connected with me by subscribing here on YouTube and give me a follow on Instagram for regular cosmic insights and content. Plus, check out my website for some fun, customizable Astro merchant gifts to rep your unique astrological code. And remember, let it flow, because it won't stop.